All right, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Keens by Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, it seems you're really thinking about the future, huh? Getting a head start on all things money. Smart move, especially these days.
Absolutely. It's never too early to start thinking about financial literacy.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki, he doesn't mess around, he jumps right in, telling us about growing up with, get this, TWO dads.
So das.
Yeah, his biological dad, super educated guy, a school superintendent.
Okay, I see where this is going. The classic go to school, get good grades, get a good job path.
You got it. But then there's this rich dad, a self-made entrepreneur. Totally different story. Ends up incredibly wealthy.
So, two very different perspectives on money, success, all of that.
Totally. And Kiyosaki learns different lessons from each of them.
Right. From his educated dad, it's all about job security, that steady paycheck. What most people consider the safe route.
Makes sense. But what about the rich dad? What did he emphasize?
Owning businesses, making money work for him, not the other way around.
Interesting. And that's where he introduces that term we've all heard, right? The rat race.
Ah, yes, the rat race.
He paints this really vivid picture of how so many people get caught in that cycle, working for someone else, paying taxes, maybe struggling with debt, running and running, but not really getting ahead.
It's a powerful image, isn't it? And he's really challenging that traditional idea of what success looks like.
Totally. And he argues that it's not just about how much money you make, but what your money is actually doing. Is it working for you or just disappearing?
Exactly. And that leads us to one of his most famous concepts, assets versus liabilities.
Okay, yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
He really flips the script on how most people think about money, what they consider an asset.
So he says the rich focus on acquiring assets, things that put money in their pockets.
Right. And the poor middle class, they often focus on liabilities, things that take money out.
Give us an example of that. Make it real for people.
Sure. Think about a house. Most people think, oh, my house, that's my biggest asset. But Kiyosaki says for many, it's actually a liability.
Wait, hold on. How can a house be a liability? It's an investment, right?
Well, yeah, it can be. But think about it. You're constantly pouring money into it. Mortgage payments, property taxes, repairs, all that. It's often a money pit.
Okay, yeah. I see his point. You're not really making money from it. You're just, like you said, keeping it afloat.
Exactly. Now, imagine if you had a rental property that generates income, right? That's an asset.
Ah, okay, I get it. It's not about what it is, but how it functions in your financial life.
Exactly. And that's a key point.
And he doesn't stop there. He gets into this whole world of taxes and corporations.
Right. And this is where some people start to raise eyebrows. He argues that the rich, they use corporations to legally reduce their taxes and protect their assets.
Yeah, he even says taxes were initially designed to punish the rich, but ended up hurting the middle class more.
It's a controversial idea, for sure, but he's not saying it's wrong, He's just pointing out how the system works and how understanding the rules can be really empowering.
So knowledge is power, especially when it comes to money.
Absolutely. It's about being informed and making smart choices, not just reacting blindly.
It's like he's saying, don't hate the player, hate the game, but learn how to play the game better.
That's a great analogy. And that's what financial literacy is all about.
Then there's this whole idea of inventing money. What does that even mean?
He uses this great example of Alexander Graham Bell. Remember, he tried to sell his telephone patent to Western Union for $100,000.
And they laughed at him, right?
Yeah, they totally dismissed him. Big mistake.
Huge mistake. And that's Kiyosaki's point. The rich, they see opportunities where others only see risk. They think differently.
And they're not afraid to create something new, something valuable.
So he's not just talking about inventing gadgets.
No, he's talking about seeing a need and finding a way to fill it, coming up with solutions, being innovative.
But that takes courage too, right?
Absolutely. Courage and that financial literacy we keep talking about. You got to understand how money works to really make it work for you.
Okay, so not everyone's cut out to be an entrepreneur. What about people who are happy with a traditional job? Does Kiyosaki have any advice for them?
Oh, yeah, he does. He actually encourages everyone to develop that entrepreneurial mindset, even if you're working for someone else.
So it's more about how you think, how you approach problems.
Exactly. It's about being proactive, taking ownership, and always looking for ways to learn and grow.
So it's not just about getting a job, it's about always developing your skills.
Right. And that's where his advice to work to learn, not just to earn, comes in.
Oh yeah, he tells that story about recommending sales training to a journalist. a journalist with a master's degree, and she's offended.
It's funny, but it makes a point. Sometimes specialized education can actually limit our thinking.
Interesting. So it's about being well-rounded,
Yeah.
you know, having a variety of skills, not just being good at one thing.
Exactly. And that's what Kiyosaki calls financial intelligence. It's not just about managing your own money, it's about understanding the bigger picture, how the world of money works.
Makes sense. So he encourages learning a little bit about a lot of different things.
Right. Like accounting, investing, marketing, even law. He says his rich dad believed that was essential for success.
Wow, so it's about connecting the dots, seeing how it all fits together.
Exactly. And that's what he wants teens to understand. He's challenging them to think differently about success. It's not just about that one job, that one career path. It's about having options, being adaptable.
So ultimately, it's about having more control over your future.
Exactly. And that's a really powerful message, especially these days when things are changing so fast.
But we were just talking about that entrepreneurial mindset, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're not, starting a business right this second.
It's about being proactive, seeing those opportunities even when they're not obvious.
And Kiyosaki, he really puts his money where his mouth is with this stuff. He tells this story, his first real estate deal, he got it for free, just by asking.
For free. Come on.
Seriously. He's at a party talking to this real estate broker, just casually mentions he's looking to get into real estate, maybe a small property.
I bet that broker was like, yeah, right, kid, small property.
Exactly. And the broker's like, well, I don't have anything small right now, but I do have this giant apartment building, 28 units, can't seem to sell it.
So what did Kiyosaki do? Did he suddenly have millions of dollars to invest?
Nope. He saw a chance to learn. He told the broker, hey, I'll list it for you for free, just for the experience.
Wow, that's bold. Did it work?
Totally. He finds a buyer in a few weeks, makes a nice commission, all without even being a licensed agent yet.
Okay, that's a good story.
Yeah.
You don't always need money to make money, right? Sometimes you just need, what, hustle? Be willing to learn.
Exactly. It's like that saying, the worst they can say is no. He asked, right? And it opened up this whole opportunity.
That's a great point. It reminds me of what he says about our minds,
Yeah.
our most valuable asset. It's not about what you have. It's about how you think.
Totally. But even with the right mindset, fear can still hold us back. Kiyosaki talks about this thing he calls the tar baby. Remember that from the old folk tales?
Oh, yeah, Bray Rabbit, right. Stuck in the tar. The more he struggles, the worse it gets.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki says it's the same with, fear and self-doubt. The more you dwell on it, the more power it has over
And
you.
especially as a teenager, right? So much pressure to fit in, to not screw up.
He says, do the opposite. Confront your fears. Step outside your comfort zone. Take some risks.
Calculated risks, of course, not just being reckless.
Right. But we all make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Even with the best intentions. What does Kiyosaki say about failure?
Oh, he embraces it. He says, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning.
I love that. It takes the pressure off, It's okay to experiment, try new things. You don't have to be perfect the first time.
Exactly. He wants teens to develop that can-do attitude. That resilience. You're going to get knocked down, but you got to get back up.
It's like life throws curveballs. It's not always going to be easy.
He compares it to surfing. You're going to wipe out, get pummeled, but you got to keep getting back up on that board.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
But that's where, having a strong why comes in, right?
Absolutely. Kiyosaki talked a lot about that, knowing your purpose. Why do you want financial success? What are you working towards?
He uses his own experience. Flying helicopters in Vietnam. That's got to be terrifying.
He says his why, wanting to come home, that's what kept him going.
So it's about finding something bigger than yourself, something that gives you that strength to keep going.
It's what makes all the hard work worth it, the setbacks, the learning curve.
And Kiyosaki, he's not just teaching financial strategies. It's like life strategies.
It's a whole mindset shift, right?
Yeah.
Believing in yourself, taking control, not just being a consumer, but a producer, an investor, a creator.
And he's a big advocate for starting early, financial education. He's pretty critical of the traditional school system.
He's like, come on, schools, you're not preparing kids for the real world.
Yeah, he thinks financial literacy should be right up there with math and science. He even created his own board game, Cash Flow, to teach these concepts.
Makes sense. It's not just theory with him, it's practical stuff.
Yeah.
Real world examples.
He wants teens to develop good habits early on. Saving, investing wisely, understanding debt.
It's never too early to start building that foundation.
And he reminds us that even small choices today, they can make a big difference down the line.
Now, Kiyosaki, he's not without his critics. Some people find his views, especially on taxes and corporations, a little um, out there.
Yeah, he definitely pushes buttons. But you know what? He gets people thinking, questioning the system, which can be a good thing.
He's all about entrepreneurship, as that path to freedom. But some people say he oversimplifies things or promotes risky strategies.
It's important to remember, these are his perspectives. You don't have to agree with everything he says.
Right, right. Do your own research, get informed, make your own decision. That's what true financial literacy is all about.
It's not about blindly following anyone's advice. It's about, figuring out what works for you.
And speaking of that, Kiyosaki emphasizes that financial education, it's not just about, making a ton of money.
It's about having choices.
Yeah.
Freedom.
He talks about using your money to create a life you love, not just buying stuff.
So it's about aligning your finances with your values.
Exactly. He wants teens to think bigger. What are you passionate about? How can you make a positive impact?
It's about being more than just a consumer, right?
Right. Be a contributor. Use your resources for good.
Now, Kiyosaki, he has this really interesting way of defining wealth. It's not just about how much you have right now.
Yeah, it's not just about that number in your bank account.
He asks, if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? That's his measure of wealth.
Interesting. So it's more about a system, right, that generates income even when you're not working.
Exactly. It's about building that foundation that supports you no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And it's something you can start building right now.
He's all about thinking long term, making those small, consistent choices that add up over time.
Don't get rich quick schemes. It's about playing the long game.
And he stresses that financial intelligence is crucial in today's world. Things are changing so fast.
He says the old rules of money, they don't apply anymore. The school, job, retirement track, it's not as stable as it used to be.
So he wants teens to be prepared for that. Be adaptable. Learn new skills. Create your own opportunities.
Be a lifelong learner. Stay curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
The world is full of opportunities, but you got to be open to them, correct?
Now, Kiyosaki, he's definitely a polarizing figure. Some people love him, some people not so much.
But you can't deny he's gotten people talking about money, challenged the status quo, inspired people to take control.
Love him or hate him, he's had a huge impact, especially on younger generations.
His book, it's a great resource for anyone who wants to learn more about money, investing, building that financial foundation.
It makes you think,
Yeah.
challenges assumptions, and ultimately, it empowers you, gives you the tools to create the future you want.
So as you're listening to all this, what's standing out to you? What are your own financial goals?
What steps can you take starting today to build that stronger foundation?
We'll be back in a bit to wrap up this deep dive and leave you with something to think about.
Welcome back. We've covered a lot with Rich Dad, Poor Dad for teens.
Yeah, a lot to unpack. Assets, liabilities, the whole rat race thing, even how corporations fit into all of this.
It seems like you're really serious about building a solid financial future. Good for you. And this book, it gives you some powerful tools.
Definitely. We've talked about starting small businesses, finding mentors, even just having the guts to ask for opportunities.
But if there's one big takeaway from Kiyosaki, it's got to be the power of mindset, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's like, your beliefs about money, they're just as important as knowing the technical stuff.
He talks about that rich dad mindset, no matter where you come from.
It's about moving past that feeling of scarcity, like there's never enough, and instead seeing all the abundance and opportunity out there.
He wants teens to dream big, believe in themselves. Don't give up on those goals.
Because like he says, our minds, that's our most powerful asset.
It's about using your imagination, being creative, finding solutions where others see problems.
Surround yourself with good people, people who support you, push you to grow.
But reading books, listening to podcasts, it's not enough, right?
No, you got to take action. Put it all into practice. Experiment. Make mistakes. That's how you learn.
Be proactive. Look for those opportunities. Create your own luck.
The world's full of abundance. It's up to you to grab it.
Step outside that comfort zone. Take some risks. Calculated ones, of course. And never stop learning.
Financial success, it's not a destination, it's a journey.
And the earlier you start, the better.
He really emphasizes building good habits early on.
Yeah.
Saving, investing wisely, managing debt, all that.
Little choices today can make a big difference down the road.
But Kiyosaki, he goes beyond just, making money.
It's about creating a life of purpose, a life you love.
Think about how you can use what you have to make a positive impact. What are you passionate about?
Support causes you believe in. Give back. Use your resources to build a better world.
True wealth, it's not just about money.
It's about feeling fulfilled,
Yeah.
spiritually and emotionally.
Be grateful. Appreciate what you have. Focus on what really matters.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad for teens, we want to leave you with a question.
Something to think about as you continue on your journey.
Are you ready to challenge your own assumptions about money, to explore new ways of thinking about wealth?
In a world that's constantly changing, financial literacy, it's more important than ever.
That's it for this deep dive. We hope you've gained some valuable insights from Kiyosaki's work.
Remember, financial literacy is a journey. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving towards the future you deserve.